Yo, yo, watch it be amazed. Ranking every Grammy winning rap album from worst to best while I'm reacting to it from Fantastic Hip Hop. Shout out Fantastic Hip Hop. I believe it's 20, excuse me, 29 or 30. It's been going on since like the mid 90s, something like that. Um, of course, I'm already sure because a lot of this stuff on here is like a bunch of. I ain't saying this person's like no, like he don't know what he talking about, nothing like that. Cause hell, y'all don't know who I am. But yeah, I'm guessing he probably about 22, 18 to 22. Um, I'm not college age. I'm a little bit older than that, so I'm more of somebody who listened to late 90s, mid 90s, even mid 90s, late 90s, early to about 2005 was probably like my, nah, that's a lie. That's a lie. My peak was probably, as far as music, was about 90, 96, 95, 96 to about 2009, 10. And that's when I probably kind of was like, But I still be listening to music all the time. I still be, getting into it and ranking and keeping it up. But anyway, we just gonna go ahead and see what they talking about here. See what they talking about. See what they got certain people and everything. So let's go.
Since 1996, the Grammys have given out an award for the best rap album, and while in some years they have gotten it right, a lot of times they have been extremely wrong. So today, we are going to find out just how horrible the Grammys have been as we rank every Grammy winning rap album from worst to best, and if you are ready to see the highs and lows from music's biggest award show. Let's waste no time and let's get right into it.
It's the biggest piece of dog shit that I have ever heard.
Now, kicking off this list in last place at number 29, we got the 2019 Best Rap Album winner with Invasion of Privacy by Cardi B, and to this day,
Nah. So the Cardi B album, I understand. Okay, out of all the best rap albums that I can think off the top of my head, yeah, it. This is not like some lyrical genius type rap album, whatever. It wasn't meant to be that. It was meant to be just what it looks like, what it is, what she pretty much is. It's just meant to be that fun, cool. You know, I believe the CD was pretty much full of bangers. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like the CD was raw. And I don't know. She's we not going to Cardi for lyrics and introspective album or something like that's gonna change the world. Like when her album dropped down, I think most people didn't even really know what to honestly expect from her. And what we got was something way more than what we expected. And I also think that's why it was on this list. um, what's crazy is this album was up against some other pretty decent albums, but this probably was just because of how successful it was and how hot it was and just her star power at that time. I can understand why I was there. I would, I may not put this. I don't know. It might be last, but I may not put this last, but we'll see.
winner with Invasion of Privacy by Cardi B, and to this day, this is not just one of the worst picks the Grammys have ever given to win anything, but it's truly one of the worst in all of award show history, especially when you consider the other phenomenal albums it was up against, like Travis Scott's Astroworld, Pusha T's
Okay.
Daytona, and Mac
Okay.
Miller's Swimming. Now, what it
Okay. Okay. They are up against. She was up against some pretty. I can understand why Pusha T maybe didn't win it. I can under, even I can understand why those people didn't win it though. Up compared to her that year. I hate saying that, but I can see that though.
comes to Invasion of Privacy, all this album is your run-of-the-mill late 2010s pop rap album, and while this record does have its fair share of massive hits, that's undeniable. There is a big difference between being commercially successful and being a truly great piece of music. In a time where hip hop was in a renaissance artistically, whether because of the mastery lyricism from Pusha T, or the otherworldly psychedelic experiences from Travis Scott, or the emotional
That
vulnerability
Astro
that
World
Mac Miller
dropped.
was able to show and touch
That
lives with,
Astro World
the
just
album
dropped.
selected over all of these and so many others represented none of hip hop's greatest accomplishments at the time, and instead showcased the genre at its most predictable and complacent.
And
I'm
and
sorry, Cardi
I
B is just
agree.
not an interesting
I felt when she won, I was like, I almost, I felt like it was kind of a step back for some of the stuff because to me, Nikki and all them was a little bit like Nikki was actually rapping and whatever. But she started shaking her ass and all that too. But Cardi, Cardi straight did like Cardi was the beginning of the whole City Girl run, in my opinion. Like that whole, and that's why we got Sexy Reds and all them now, which is fine. I ain't saying nothing wrong with that, but she was the one who kind of started all them. The like it was kind of like this thing of what Nicki and Iggy. Like that's what was so funny. It became Nicki and Cardi, but I remember it was kind of like Nicki and Iggy for a little while there, which was funny because I think Iggy never won a best rap album, but I do believe she might have won album of the year. Y'all let me know if I'm wrong on that. I know she won something, but yeah.
enough rapper to make an entire album compelling, as the moments where she sounds like a real human are about as scarce as it gets, and for the majority of this thing, she's just boasting about her looks or talking down to everybody, and with her agitating delivery and elementary level songwriting, she's doing the most boring and overplayed out things a rapper can do on a song in the most boring and painstaking way possible. So overall, for being a record that, while being massively successful commercially, had absolutely no right even being mentioned for this type of award, Invasion of
I
Privacy
agree.
is the worst album to win a Grammy, and I think it's
It's
undisputed.
still
Now, if there is
we can't hate. It's still a Grammy winning album, so you can't hate, and you can't say that album was bad by no means. It's just yeah, you know.
any album that you can say is worse than Invasion of Privacy, it would definitely be the record at our number 28 spot, which is Macklemore and Ryan Lewis's The Heist. Now,
Ah, I wouldn't say it's a worse album than Cardi's album, but this was I remember this album was like a big deal because it did have though it had the song Thrift Store and it had this is the moment whatever, but it it was up against Good Kid, Mad City, uh what else was it up against that year? Good Kid, I think it was up against some Jay-Z CD. Can't remember which one. Like, it was weird that he won for what he won for because I would almost say that that CD was more like, and I know definitely nowadays is this weird thing where you got the singing rap and all that type of stuff, but I would have definitely called this more of a I don't even know what type of CD it would have been. I, I wouldn't put it in the rap, or at least if you want to put it there, I wouldn't have had it win over. Out of all those CDs, Good Kid, Mad City should have won that year.
now looking at this album, very similar to Invasion of Privacy.
Oh, and for that reason, that's maybe why I would put it below Cardi B's uh as far as best Grammy wins, best but I guess it's the best. See, it's weird. The every Grammy winning best ranking every Grammy winning rap album from worst to best. So I guess he actually ranking the albums. I probably would make put this at the bottom. I would probably put Cardi B's CD a little bit higher just because it had more hits and stuff. But nah, you know what? I can't do that. They tired. They both just tired. They tired. They tired. I can't do that. I can't do that. They tired. Cardi B's CD was more had more hits on it though.
Privacy, this record took the commercial music world by absolute storm by catering to the pop rap trends of the time, and it dominated because of that. But being nominated alongside rappers like Drake and Jay-Z, and albums like Kanye West's Yeezus and Kendrick Lamar's Good Kid Mad City, the heist didn't just have absolutely no place being mentioned alongside albums that we have now seen become classics and change the artistic landscape of hip-hop and music. But it should have never won over them either. I don't know how the Grammys messed up this bad. This album just doesn't do a single thing remarkably memorable outside of having major hits like Thrift Shop and Can't Hold Us, and when you look at it from that angle, it almost seems like they just voted on this category based on which record had the biggest singles. Macklemore's performance just feels like a musical sin as he puts together the most cliche bars you can possibly think of, and they are decorated within this overdramatic production that feels like it's more fitted for a Chevy commercial or something than an actual
And that's why I gotta put the and see, bro. That's why I gotta put the Cardi B album maybe over even this album because again, Cardi this album may have been a little deeper and all that type of stuff than the Cardi B album, of course. But Cardi had more. It was just oh man, I don't even know, man. It might be like I say, it's tied. It's close. It's close.
serious
It's
rap album.
close.
So overall with the
But
heist,
so
while
far, I
on the
think he got it
surface
right.
it appears
So
to be
far,
so much
he
more
has
than
it
it
right
is
as
between
far as
Macklemore's wannabe big brain rapping and its era-defining hits. In actuality,
the
all it ever
first two I
did
would
was
have.
water down
Yeah, I would definitely
everything
have
that
these two up
defines a
first.
great hip-hop project and presents it in a way that would only impress people who don't appreciate a Kendrick Lamar or a Kanye West. So
This
honestly,
should not
when
have
you
won over
look at it
Kendrick
winning the
Lamar though.
best rap album, despite how
But it
horrible
is
the
what it
pick it
is.
is, I guess it's really not that surprising
But
considering
again,
the type of people that
Grammy
vote for
winning
these
album.
awards. Now on to number 27. We are past seeing album winners that are just straight out horrible and have no place
Oh
winning
man, he
anything,
just
and
called that
instead
horrible.
we
Man,
just
I
got
wouldn't
some
say
really
horrible.
confusing picks, and at this spot we got Ludacris's Release Therapy, and again, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying this is
Release
a bad
therapy.
album, but is this
What's some
really
release
the
therapy?
best from its time? Now despite this record being massively successful commercially again, it really has no other merit to stand
I
on
don't
to
remember
be a
release
best
therapy
rap
like
album
that.
winner, especially considering that it was up against some of the most complex and well-written rap albums of its time like Lupe
Oh
Fiasco's
well, I
Food and
know it shouldn't have
Liquor,
won
and
over
The Roots'
Lupe
heavily
Fiasco.
underrated
I
Game
know.
Theory, and even aside from these records, it was up against Pharrell's In My Mind and T.I.'s King, which were projects that are way more
Also, that was one of his like maybe his fourth. That must have been like his fourth or fifth album. Ludacris. Yeah. I now it won, so we're gonna have to rank it. But yeah, just like the first two, I don't even think this one should have even won that year. Like Lupe should have won that off like easily. Like this not he can just
telling
I'm just gonna let him talk.
experiences and were just
Like
as
let's get on
nearly
to the next
culturally
one
relevant. Now
because
beyond the
again, like you say,
confusing win that
it's Ludacris. They probably gave it to him because he was probably owed it from some past whatever. But uh, you should have gave that to Lupe. And see the thing is, Lupe didn't win for that next album he had. Did he win for that next album? He might have won album of the year for that next album. Maybe not rap album, but album of the year. There's a good chance that that happened with Lupe because Lupe, and if he didn't, y'all let me know. Like I'm gonna look it up later, but he had to have one album of the year. How could he not win album of the year that year? Not with the food, not even with the what's the one that had ah you are who you say you are, yeah, a superstar. I know. Like he had to have won a Grammy for that, right? Unless the only way he could not have won a Grammy if he was going up against like I can't think who might have been out at that time. Like I'm pretty sure it was somebody big out at that time too, but that was one of the biggest songs of that year by far. And albums, and most critically acclaimed album, if not the most critically acclaimed album of that year. There could maybe only be two or three that I'm just not thinking of that came out that year.
Ludacris
Shout
got
out
with this
Ludacris though.
project in comparison to its competition. When you look at Release Therapy for what it actually is, especially in a modern era, it's kind of a mediocre listen overall, as it's dominated by annoying club bangers that have aged like milk, and the only thing that's aged worse than the tired production and formula of so many of these songs are some of Luda's punchlines, which are just horrible. It's honestly frustrating because there are a good amount of great songs on this project that show off such a vulnerable and ambitious side to Ludacris, but they are dragged down by so many tracks that seem like they were mandated to be on a record like this to fit the trends of the time. So overall, while Release Therapy may have been a decent pick for best rap album at the time, as this album has aged and all of the trends it relied on with it just stands out as one of the weakest and most dated best rap album winners that the Grammys have ever selected.
I can agree
Now,
with
coming
that.
in at number 26, we got the first ever winner of the Best Rap Album Award from all the way back in
Oh,
1996 with Naughty by
yeah,
Nature's
Naughty by
Poverty's
Nature.
Paradise. And don't get me wrong, I don't think
Oh,
this album is bad, but
26.
when
This
we
might be
look
the
at it
first
being
one we might have
nominated
to,
against records that
in
changed
a
hip
few
hop
minutes,
forever,
have to
like
look back. How
Tupac's
long
Me
did we
Against
do?
the
30?
World, it just
I
seems
have to look back
confusing
to
why you would pick an
16.
album that is just so okay in comparison. Now, if you listen to this album, you're definitely not gonna hate it, and if you like 90s East Coast hip hop, I'd even tell you it's worth a spin, but to that point, this album just exists in the herd of solid records that were a part of this movement and doesn't stand out as something that is particularly great or era defining. From the bars to the flows to the boom bap beats, everything on this album is written and curated in a way that is super well done. But overall, it just fails to blow you away and leave you with
Hmm.
that long
You
lasting
see,
impression that not
this
just the best boom bap and
this may be this may be one of those, and for some reason he's showing MOP right now. I may not have heard what he was saying, but that's definitely not Naughty by Nature. I don't know if you know that, and that's the thing. I like to know how old these people are before they start talking about like 90s and you know maybe certain music that they don't really know too much about. This is one of the hardest CDs ever. This Naughty by Nature CD. Again, I don't want to say one of the hardest CDs ever. Let me take that back. I'm gonna take that back my dang self. Not one of the hardest CDs ever, but it's a classic CD. Like it's two or three songs on that to this day you go to any party, most parties, most whatever, and they're gonna play at least one Naughty by Nature song, or they're gonna play somebody who sampled a Naughty by Nature song, or somebody who um, is influenced by Naughty by Nature song, and not just influenced by them, like oh yeah, I was influenced by Naughty by Nature, but literally they're going to say lyrics or say something that Naughty by Nature said, or use some type of beat or whatever. It's Naughty by Nature. If you don't know, go look them up. So later on, I might change this as far as like, cause he got my 26 now. I may move them up like two or three spots. Probably not that much because it is some other great albums, that are on here. So, but we'll see.
East Coast rap albums from even this same year did, but it fails to leave a mark on the rap world like an album
Oh,
that is
okay. That's why he was showing them because MOB came out that same, CD came out that same year. Okay, got him. Whew. Boy, I was gonna say, oh boy, like, oh goodness, I don't want to listen to this no more. Okay, he got me back. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I apologize. To I forget his name. Hip hop. I ain't see his name. I'm gonna make sure I get his name right. Fantastic hip hop. My fault, bro. I ain't mean to act like you ain't know what you was talking about. Because clearly you do.
winning such a coveted award is supposed to. So overall, for Poverty's Paradise being a record that is just solid, I can't put it any higher than this. Now coming in at number 25, we got Eminem's Recovery, and if you are an M stan, calm down and just hear me out for a second. Now, as I've already said, the albums at this point on the list are not bad, but they just don't have the makings to take the crown as the best rap album from a respective year, and with Recovery, this is its exact problem. Don't get me wrong, this project had some of the best hits of the 2010s period with Not Afraid, Love the Way You Lie, and No Love, but as a complete list
I'm a big Eminem fan. Probably him and DMX, my two favorite rappers of all time. I agree with him on this though. To me, for some reason, this was not necessarily. This and I believe the next one were like, okay, I don't think M has not won a best rap album. I think all his albums pretty much have won, except for like maybe one or except for what? No, all of them have won, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I did end up getting it. I brought it, of course, but I felt like, and just like my other favorite rapper, DMX, when I brought the Great Depression album by DMX, it was a little bit different than, of course, it's gonna be different than earlier stuff, but it was a little bit different, and not just different, but it was real different to me. Like he said, the hits on there were hits, but even those were like they were different. They weren't like the Eminem, hits that we were used to. And now the Great Depression and this city, I think the Great Depression was more like what DMX was, more so than this was what Eminem was, like of course before. So, but I already know that I could. The top five is gonna be full of, the top 5, 10 gonna be full of Kanye. I think Jay Z won one rap album of the year, but I think it was for Volume Two, if I'm not mistaken. If that's crazy, or Blueprint maybe. Blueprint might have won, but I know Volume Two won. Hard Knock Life. Um, what? Uh, I wouldn't say Lil Wayne or Drake gonna be in the top 10. Uh, Nas maybe. Nah, yeah, because I don't think none of his we'll see. We'll see. I'm talking.
Listening experience. This is nowhere near as good as Eminem's earlier albums, and it really only won because it was attached to a superstar as big as Eminem's name in the first place. So overall, that's all I really have to say about this record. It's a solid album, but if we are being real, if it was made from any other artist that wasn't named Eminem, it would have not taken home this Grammy. Now coming in at number 24, we got No Way Out by Puff Daddy and the Family, and what's good about this album is that most of it is still enjoyable because Puff Daddy didn't even write his own raps or contribute
24.
anything of quality to the record, and the only reason it was ever good in the first place was because of the
24.
reoccurring guest appearances from the likes of Biggie, Jay-Z, Busta Rhymes, and so many other gifted MCs and artists. So with No Way Out, while I do think this record is way too messy and has way too much Puff Daddy to ever actually be deserving of a Best Rap Album award, its saving grace are the collaborations and performances from the rest of the Bad Boy.
What did he just say? What did he just say? Are you crazy? This is No Way Out. Probably. Puff got some good albums. You know those, because all his albums be like compilation albums for the most part. No Way Out again. It came out in the 90s, late 90s. Like 97, 90. Oh, he said yeah. I don't forgot. I forgot what year he said already. But no, no, 24. I've been okay with everything so far. Even the Not Even Nature 26, I'm okay with that right as of right now from what I can remember from the things I'm thinking about, the albums I'm thinking about. But this one at 24, that kind of got me. I'm going to keep mind of how many albums he is fit to name after this one that I would put this one ahead
Crew and their affiliates that just steal the show time and time again. With this record releasing after the passing of the late Biggie Smalls, this album gave us the last real performances that Big was ready to release and show the world, and this just makes tracks like Victory and Young G's hit all the harder as we hear a version of Big that is more mature, focused, and tenacious than we would ever see him. So all in all, if you want to listen to a record that in some ways kind of feels like a spiritual successor to Life After Death, No Way Out is still a decent listen, and for this reason, it's at the number 24 spot. Decent. Now coming in at number 23, we got the 2010 Best Rap Album winner with Eminem's Relapse, and while personally I do enjoy this album and appreciate the eerie and dark direction
I put
Eminem
No Way
took
Out
this
above
entire
this one.
experience in. Let's be real, the only reason this album won this award is because it was attached to
And again,
Eminem's name,
Eminem is,
because even the
and
most
DMX are my
loyal
two
of
favorite
M
rappers of
fans
all
would
time.
admit that this album came nowhere near the quality of its predecessors, so while Relapse is good, it's definitely not on the level of some of the better albums from Eminem on this list, and for this reason, it's at number 23. And at number 22, we got the 1999 Best Rap Album winner with Jay-Z's Hard Knock Life Volume 2, and while this is Jay's best-selling album and the only record of his to ever take home this award, if you're an old head, brace yourselves because you're gonna
This is a
hate
great
what I
album.
have to say, but when we look at this album 25 years
I
separated
don't
from
think
its
it's
release,
his
I think it's
best album.
aged pretty horribly for a Jay-Z album, and while it is still decent, I think it's one of Jay-Z's weakest records. Now, I used to love this album years ago, don't get me wrong, but going back to it today, most of the songs just feel so dated as it
And because he said that, I agree. Like back in the day, this was a very raw album. Now it's not maybe as, yeah, like quote unquote enjoyable, like you said. You're not going back to listen to. I listen to Reasonable Doubt way more than I listen to Volume One. I may even listen to Reasonable Doubt when I listen to Volume Two. I may even listen to Volume One more than I listen to Volume Two. And I pretty much know a lot of people who are like that. This was definitely his most biggest commercial selling album because it had, if I'm not mistaken, this is the one that had, if I'm not mistaken, this is the one that had Hard Knock Life. So that makes sense. Biggest song because definitely and see I think that too because 97, 98, him and X was supposed to perform at, I don't know where they're supposed to perform together. The the Grammys maybe, the MTV Awards, some awards show, and DMX ain't show up, so Jay had to go there and perform by himself. Maybe the BET Awards, I don't know which award show it was, but I remember that. And yeah, I would I would put No Way Out above this one too. Man, y'all, if you've never listened to No Way Out, go listen to No Way Out. The intro, raw. Victory, raw. The song with Twister and Genuine are raw. Of course, every Biggie song on there is raw. Like it, it's maybe only all about the Benjamins. Like, come on, bruh. Like, what is he talking about as far as that one? So now we still got what's it called? It's moving
it
up
relies
north.
so much
No
on
Way
the
Out is
trends
still
of the
moving up
time
north.
that when we look at it, all these years separated from the time it dropped, outside of a few highlights, a lot of the album just feels super inauthentic to the Jay-Z he was before this album and the artist he would blossom into following it. So while Volume 2 was an album that absolutely took the world by storm in 1998, it's kind of the problem with it as it was so reliant on what's going on around it in the time that it dropped that when you listen to it today, it just feels so dated and uncharacteristically dull compared to what else Jay-Z has done. Now moving on to number 21, we are looking at a tier of records that while still not worthy of winning the best rap album based on their pure musical merit in my eyes, are still solid records, and right outside of the top 20, we got Nas's King's Disease,
Oh,
and
I thought
while
he
I
was finna
think
say
that
some
other
Chance Rap.
records that
But
Nas
that means he got
released during
Chance
his
Rapper high, 'cause
phenomenal
Chance
run
won.
this decade with Hit Boy would go on to surpass this album. This is the record that really changed the tone for Nas's music as it
I
started it
put
all and
no.
showed the world that despite being in the rap game for nearly 30 years, Nas still has so much to offer. Listening to King's Disease feels like sipping on a glass of fine
King's
wine,
Disease,
and
of
what makes
course,
this
is a
project
great
especially
project.
unique in the series is that alongside all of the heightened wisdom
And
Nas
I
is
ain't mad with
instilling
his
into
ranking
track
this
after
one
track,
either,
he's also
but
rapping with a
I
fire
put
lit
No
under
Way
him as
Out
we see him
above
trying
it.
to prove to us that his music can thrive in the modern era, and this is especially seen through the cross-generation collabs on this record, which all end up being surprisingly unique and refreshing. Now with all this said, While King's Disease is a really good record that achieves something not many ever have in terms of rightfully evolving an aging artist into a new era, I don't think it's quite deserving of the best rap album title, as even some of the projects it was up against, like Freddie Gibbs and the Alchemist collab album Alfredo, were significantly better. And when you compare this project to so many other albums that have taken this award home in the past, it just doesn't reach the heights or have the same impact that defines an album that is supposed to represent the best hip-hop has to offer, outside of giving Nas his first Grammy after him being historically snubbed from the
And
award
see
show for
that's
so many years.
and see
So
that's the thing. They I feel like sometimes they give people eh, a Grammy that it's a great album. Do not get it twisted, but yeah, like all the albums that he has had, he should be like an Eminem in my opinion. Like literally every single album he has ever dropped. Well, I guess a few albums he dropped maybe came out before they started giving this award out. But every single album he has ever dropped should have gotten best rap album whatever year he dropped it, minus maybe one or two. Like come on, man. And to give his only no, does he have two? I think he has another one. What would it be though? Like maybe, but see, Nostradamus, I don't think got it. I don't think I am got it. I think this may be his only one. And if it is, I'm not saying it's not deserving, but if this is his only one, he should have won it a long time ago.
for these reasons, King's Disease is at number 21 on this list. Now,
That also
cracking the
means
top
that
20, we got the 2015 winner for Best Rap
No Way
Album
Out's
with
still
the
moving
Marshall
out.
Mathers LP2, and while I think this album is the
Moves
very
up,
best work Eminem
just so you know, No Way Out moves up again.
has had to offer since his earlier records, and it has some genuinely
And this is another one of great. Again, I'll even admit this great, one of the greatest artists of all time. It's attached
amazing
to his
and
number.
career
Now,
defining performances. Let's be real, we all know this record took home Best Rap Album because it is from Eminem, and that's all I have to say about this. So again, the Marshall Mathers LP2 is a really good album, do not get me wrong, but on a list like this, I can't put it any higher than the number 20 spot because it simply doesn't have anything to stand on outside of it being another record from arguably the most successful rapper to ever live. Now moving on to number 19. We are now at a point in this list where I think that all of the following albums had a legit case for being named the best hip-hop record of their respective year, and while that doesn't mean I think they are the best from that respective year, it does mean that I think they're quality enough experiences to at least compete for that title, and at this spot, we have one of the most surprising records to ever win a Grammy with Chance the Rapper's Coloring Book, and when
yeah.
it comes to this record, aside from being the first and only mixtape to ever win
I
a
would
Grammy,
put
this
No
is
Way
one of the
Out
most
above
fun
this.
projects that you will ever listen to, not just on this list, but really in all of hip hop.
And
Listening to Coloring Book makes it
I
feel
like
like
the
there
album.
is just
It's
a
a good
beam of
album.
light shining right down on you with its infectious positive energy, star-studded performances, and of
And I
course,
may
the
have this
one-of-a-kind,
one more
charismatic bravado that Chance the Rapper brings. There are
23
just so
range.
many feel-good moments on this record that it really makes it impossible to not just get lost in the absolutely beautiful music world that Chance put together on
Like
this
I
record, and
think
for
it's
these reasons,
2 or
it's
3 albums he's
respectably
named
at the
so
number
far that are
19
better
spot.
than that.
Now coming in at number 18 on this list, we got the classic album that started one of the craziest runs in hip-hop history with Eminem's Slim Shady LP, and while I've been somewhat critical of all of Eminem's records
now I
that have
think
won
this
Best
one
Rap
needs to be
Album
hyped.
before this point on the list, I could safely say this record
So now I
100%
got
deserves to be here, as it is to this day one of the most surreal
So now it's Slim Shady LP and No Way Out are both continuing to move up.
experiences you can find in all of the rap world. The horrifying yet hilarious character Eminem plays on this record makes for one of the most memorable performances we have ever seen in the genre, and despite how insane Eminem gets with some of the song concepts and lyrics on the record, he's able to ground everything and plant a seed that leaves you infinitely interested in what is going on to make a man write tracks that, while can be so witty and playful, have these eerie and disturbed tones that tell us that the man behind all of this clearly has a lot more of a serious story to tell. Now, I'm not going to waste any more time talking about this project because at this point there is not much else that hasn't been said, but for these reasons, the Slim Shady LP is an amazing record and it is number 18 on
Okay,
this
so no
list.
way
And
out of
at
Slim
number
Shady LP moving up
17,
to
we got
up.
the 2024 Best Rap Album winner with Killer Mike's Michael, and I know a lot of people are livid about this because it won
Mm,
over Travis Scott's Utopia, and
mm.
while I do think
Great
Utopia is
album.
a better project, don't make the Recording Academy's
Ooh. And if you a fan of Killer Mike, you know that Killer Mike album is raw. It's recent, so I'm going to let it sit where it sits, and I'm going to move No Way Out and Slim Shady LP ahead of it, and I'm gonna let this one sit where it sits, but give it another few years and see how it ages and stuff like that. This one could definitely move up fast, but we'll see how that how that actually goes.
voting decision turn you against what is one of the best traditionally made rap albums that the genre has seen in quite a long time. Just to give you some context, I had Michael at number 2 on my 2023 Album of the Year list, only under Travis Scott's Utopia, and the reason why this is because the record embodies every single component that defines a great album and excels in using them to create an experience that is so unique and poignant. Being in the rap game for over 20 years at this point, Killer Mike has been honing his skills as a writer and a storyteller for decades, and we see the payoff to his dedication of this craft here as he creates a record that encompasses his lifetime worth of experiences. The way he's able to translate his pain and love through his words and commanding voice truly make for a performance that you don't see often in modern hip hop, and making this record even better. The features are amazing. I mean, you got Andre 3000, Future, and Young Thug all featured on the same project. That should tell you everything you need to know. So overall, I get it's annoying that Utopia didn't win the
Future and
best
Young
rap album,
Thug,
but
like Andre
please, if you
3000.
like this thing
Okay.
called rap music,
Future.
don't let your frustration with the
Okay. R
Grammys
Thug.
take away
Okay. And
from
you named
enjoying
another
a
person.
record as
Future and
well
Young Thug are the same
polished and
person.
powerful
Future.
as
I got
Killer
it.
Mike's Michael. Now, coming in at number 16, we got Drake with his massive 2013 Best Album winner, Take Care. And when it comes to this iconic and decade defining project, this is such a
Mm.
versatile album that despite featuring Drake literally going from crying on songs to rapping more passionately than we have ever really seen him, manages to all feel so cohesive, and this is really a sentiment to the way Drake made albums at this time. Now, in hindsight, with all of the garbage that Drake has released in modern times, it's hard to remember that he could put together an entire experience with so much thought, but Take Care is really made with a level of precision and depth that mainstream albums are just not anymore. From hits to deep cuts to Drake's own performances, which are enriched by the star power of the absolute
The thing with this album is the radio songs I did not like as much as I like the just some of the regular just the other songs on the album. Like besides the HYFR or whatever it was called, which I think they did have a video and all that for, which I think this might be what they're showing right now the video for, but that that was when that came out and was like you know cool, but the rest of them by the time I got the CD and I heard the CD as soon as it came out, if I'm not mistaken, I didn't even listen to those, so I would skip them. So yeah, um, and that CD didn't last long with me per se. Um, yeah, it just really didn't last long with me like that. And for that, I'm gonna keep it where it's at too, because I did like it. Like it was a good CD, and everybody liked that CD. It was a good CD, and for the time, it was definitely what it was. But it didn't really hit like how I think. Like like his first mixtape to me was better than Take Care. Sorry, I know a lot of people ain't gonna like that, but um, whatever his first mixtape was called, the one that had a little bit and all that stuff on it. Like if we talking about singing tracks and you know, baby, you my everything. What else he did on that one? He had a few other like every song on there was pretty much good. Was Uptown on there? I think Uptown was on there. It's a good city.
A-list of featured guests. This record has so many moving pieces that manage to all enhance one another, and in an era where Drake himself has forgotten how to balance his albums like these and not just use features to market the album or hits to make them go viral. Listening back to Take Care all these years later really makes it feel like artists making projects that can have wide mainstream success yet also be genuinely great pieces of music has become a lost and even a dead art. So for these reasons, and for Take Care being the ultimate Drake project that rightfully deserved its best rap album win, it's number 16 on this list. Now moving into the top 15, we are now at a point in this list where all of these albums are genuinely amazing and are in a lot of people's top 10s or top 5s, so this is where the ranking got really challenging, but at number 15, we got the Carter 3, and when it comes to this album, to this day, I don't know if there is a more entertaining rap album than this. Lil Wayne raps like an alien on this entire project with a demeanor and swagger that you can't even translate the magic of into words. From era-defining hits to some of the most creative lyrical performances of the entire century. The Carter 3 is one of those records that completely redefined what a rapper can do and made for one of the most impressive displays of skill that not just hip hop, but any genre of music has ever seen, and for these reasons, it's number 15 on this list. And at number 14, we got the
I like that being um No Way Out is still moving up, even ahead of the Carter 3. Slim Shady LP. Man, I don't know. Slim Shady LP still moving up too. Yeah, but I like and I like
iconic
where
Eminem
Wayne is. I like it being right there.
show, and when it comes to the third act in the trilogy of Eminem's first 3 major label albums, I don't think there was a better way to end off one of the greatest runs in music history than this. Now, with an album
Okay,
like The Eminem Show, it's important to
the Slim Shady LP can stop now because the Eminem Show is the the better one. And then of course I guess the Marshall Mathers LP will be,
remember that at the time of this record's
definitely
release,
top
Eminem was the
five.
absolute biggest thing in music, and while he had millions of fans, he was also the target of so much public ridicule and controversy in a way that few artists ever were, and M took all of this and created a body of work that embodied the chaos and turbulence surrounding his entire life, and by embracing this storm of
Yo, we
emotion and
out,
attention, he was
still
able to
moving
give
up
us
though.
something unforgettable. From the presentation of this album, which is designed to feel so important and impactful from the very moment where we hear the curtains open in the intro to when we hear them shut close, to the intensity that's conveyed through so many of the instrumentals, this entire album plays like a once-in-a-lifetime experience that may not be Eminem's very best album, but is sure the most important when we look at everything he stands for. This is why the record thrives by having tracks that wreak sheer havoc and spark more controversy, yet also songs that show Eminem's love for his daughter and his fears and passions
Yeah, and that's all true. it hit hard.
as
It
a
hit
human.
hard.
With these different aspects coexisting with each other, it creates a picture that doesn't just show us what makes Eminem the rapper so special in the first place, but it shows what makes him such a compelling artist beyond the spectacle that he creates through all the attention that he garnered at this time. The Eminem Show builds so well both stylistically, but more importantly narratively. We
13.
somehow got an even better finale to an iconic trilogy of records with Kanye West
Graduation.
Graduation, and with an album like this, do I really have to say anything about it?
And like
Graduation is nearly the ultimate
you
victory
can
lap
almost
project
put
as we
all
see Kanye West
Kanye's
deliver one of the most
albums in
triumphant
it. Like they
performances
just so
not just in
what
hip hop
they
but in
just
all of music
iconic.
history. The electric infused soundscape makes this album sound like it's from the future even all of these years after its release, and Kanye's performances are all so inspiring as you just hear this infectious
I'm not
confidence
mad at
and
it enough
bravado just
for
power into your
graduation.
ears in a manner that not a single other artist,
You
dead or
know,
alive, can replicate.
if he had stopped at graduation, yeah. But I but then you got 808s and Heartbreaks. You got My Dark Twisted Fantasy with like and graduation was amazing, but see with graduation was on some Daft Punk and T Pain ish and like I, it was a certain sound to that album. And all his albums have certain sounds, but the 808's Heartbreak, My Dark, Fantasy. I know Pablo didn't win. I don't think Pablo won a rap album or nothing like that, but I would put Pablo up there. Like I would put Pablo better than Pablo would be up in this list somewhere. I don't know who we taking out. Well, we know who we taking out, but I don't know where I would put him. Oh, yes, I do. Pablo would be easily, easily top 20. And I'm gonna even say, on far as like this ranking right here so far, I put it at about I back everything up in, right between Marshall Mathers LP and not Marshall Mathers LP, I'm sorry, Slim Shady LP, um and Lil Wayne's Carter 3.
Now, if it wasn't for the absolute disgrace of Drunken Hot Girls, this album would be borderline perfect, but as it stands, for being hip hop's quintessential
Wait, what did he
now,
say?
if it
What?
wasn't for the absolute disgrace of Drunken Hot Girls, your ears in a manner that not a
What?
single
Drunken
other
Hot
artist, dead or
Girls?
alive, can replicate. Now, if it wasn't for the absolute disgrace of Drunken
Drunken Hot Girls was cool.
Hot Girls, this album would be borderline perfect, but as it stands, for being hip hop's quintessential celebration album, Graduation is still at this point on the list. And at number 12, I know this is where I'm gonna piss a lot of people off, but before you run to the comments telling me how the three albums above this are better, just hear me out. In this spot, we got the 2022 Best Rap Album with Tyler the Creator's Call Me If You Get Lost.
Yeah, he already knew that was gonna happen. Yes, yes, yes. Um, Tyler the Creator is a great artist. What's crazy is he won for that. He won like what 2 or 3 years ago for that Igor, and I believe that's so crazy because Igor, I think he even said it. It's not a traditional rap album, but see, a few of these ain't traditional rap albums. Like I don't think that Drake is like. I understand he's rap, but a lot of his albums, you know, don't really be rap. And today he do albums, but it'd be like mixtape albums. It'd be weird what Drake does. Drake just kind of do his own thing. I would even say a lot of times Lauren Hill gets put in the rap album, that miseducation of Lauren Hill, when in reality, again, she's a rapper, probably one of the best female rappers of all time. She's definitely probably, in female rappers, she's top 10. But and top 10 just by like, because she don't have the body of work as some of these other people do. Well, actually, I don't know. She has just as much body of work actually than a lot of these people do. You know what? No, Nikki, Missy, uh, probably ahead of her. You may be able to throw, you know, I don't want to say better, but Foxy Brown is up there. Uh, Little Kim is up there because Kim said that she did write her later rhymes and stuff. And, I'm sure even when Big was around, Big is credited for writing her stuff, but I think she says she did, she wrote. And just in performance too. I don't really know about too many others that I would say are, we talking about can compare to Lauren Hill. Maybe you can maybe throw a Queen Latifah in there, but she I feel like is even has a more limited body of work than Lauren Hill. But I mean Queen could go, what I'm saying? She could definitely rap. MC Light another one who could definitely rap. Oh, the Brat. The Brat. I could see the Brat being ahead of not necessarily ahead of Lauren Hill, but do a Lauren Hill. Like, so this I'm talking about equal. Yeah, but this album was good too though. I don't know if I put it ahead of those other albums. This would definitely not be ahead of those other albums we were talking about. Like this is maybe the first one where I say, okay, we're gonna move this one back a little bit, but I'm with
Lost. And when it comes to everything that I just praised the last three albums for being, in terms of having one of a kind third acts to iconic series that just display the artist's talent and ethos in the very prime of their careers in a
it. But I think,
manner that is just unrivaled. Call Me If You Get Lost does all of this just a little bit better than the other records. Now, while the Carter 3, the Eminem Show, and Graduation, for how great they are, all come with slight flaws and even a few weak songs across the board, Call Me If You Get Lost is a record that does not waste a single second, and beyond this, maximizes its time to create one of the most immersive and thrilling albums ever, even compared to this elite competition. Now, what's so insane about how otherworldly of a listen Call Me If You Get Lost is the fact that Tyler has just about as many moving parts as you possibly can on an album, all functioning at once. This is a record that is virtually a Gangsta Grillz album with DJ Drama narrating it, and with features ranging from Lil Wayne to NBA Youngboy. It doesn't even make sense how this album can feel so polished and well crafted, as it's doing so many different things at the same time. Tyler's able to transition from rapping over a Griselda beat to then making a trap song to then going full on R&B, all to then making an 8-minute track of straight lyrical storytelling in the blink of an eye, and this is just a display of mastery from an artist that is purely unreal. While the albums right below this project feature some of the most gifted rappers of all time, mastering the signature skills and traits that define them at the height of their careers. Call Me If You Get Lost shows Tyler mastering every aspect of hip hop.
now again, the other albums I still put ahead of it, but let's not get it twisted. This album was very, very good, and and he's him. When I say he's him, I mean like he's Tyler the Creator. Like you get what you get with him, and you know what you get in, and you go there to get that. And I believe that is what people do. Like you go to get Tyler the Creator, and Tyler the Creator gets Tyler the Creator. I remember Yonkers. Like I remember the first time I saw that video on like MTV2, I was like, yo, this is crazy. And yeah.
artistry, and so much more in a way that is just jaw dropping, and that's why it's number 12 on this list. And right outside of the top 10, we got the 2018 winner for Best Rap Album with Kendrick Lamar's Damn. Now, with Damn, I find that its most defining trait is just how dynamic of a record that it is. While we have seen some massive commercial albums also be incredible bodies of work over the years, I don't think there is another project on this list that is able to put together an experience that is so rich and complex narratively, yet is so accessible to any type of music listener. From the many hits on this album to the crazy layered storytelling tracks, which feature some of Kendrick Lamar's most awe-inducing, jaw-dropping material, Damn offers so much to listeners as it
You don't put
balances
damn
making
ahead of No
conscious
Way
and
Out
commercial hip
though and
hop
all
blend
that.
so well together. So, looking at Damn in its entirety, when we look at albums that usually win these awards, while most of them sold incredibly well and are beyond exciting experiences, there's only a few albums that we will see later that manage to be even
It
as
was a great
close to
album.
as
One of my favorite
thought-provoking as
albums.
Damn, and for this reason, it's taking the number 11 spot.
Definitely
Now,
recent.
finally, we are in the top 10, and we are now looking at the very best albums to ever take home Best Rap Album at the Grammys, and in this spot, we got the only rap album to ever take home the General Album of the Year as well, with Outkast's Diamond LP's Speaker Box The Love Below. Now, with Outkast's final mainline studio
10.
album, in their tradition of always pushing music to the limits of what it can be, they decided to make this
Stankonia won also. So Stankonia is on here as the top 10, and I agree with Stankonia being in the top 10. Stankonia, from what I can think of, the albums are going to be. Number one is either going to be a Kanye West or Eminem album. Biggie is in there somewhere, probably. I believe, maybe. Tupac may be in there somewhere. I don't know if they actually won. If it did, it was probably post. Um, Kanye and M are in the top. Are in the top five. Stankonia is in top five. Like Stankonia is one of the best. If you have not heard Stankonia, go listen to Stankonia. It's not gonna sound like it came out today. It's not gonna really sound like you're gonna be like, when did this come out? I mean, of course you can tell because you're gonna like know the packaging and know this and whatever, whatever. But and you're gonna be able to tell who they are. But Stankonia is one of those ones that is just different. Miss Jackson. No, was Miss Jackson on Stankonia? I believe Miss Jackson was on there. Um, Bombs Over Baghdad was on there. Cause the whole world with Killer Mike wasn't on that album. It was on Idlewild, whatever, which came out like not that long after I believe Stankonia, but that should have been on Stankonia, cause the whole world. When they had Miss Jackson, Bombs Over Baghdad. Another song that should have been on Stankonia is this song came out later, Morris Brown by I believe it was on this album right here actually. So I mean I guess it still was on. It was on this album by Big Boy, Morris Brown. Outcast don't beat it up. Go listen to Stank on You, y'all. Please listen to Stank on You. I would actually move this album down a little bit. No, I wouldn't. I don't know. Very creative. It's very different. It was a double album, so I wouldn't move it down. I wasn't the biggest fan of this album for some reason though. Like I'm not gonna lie about that. Like I wasn't. the biggest fan of this album. It was them doing a single thing, and I think for people who were like the real Outcast fans, we liked it, but it doesn't compare to Outcast projects, if that makes any sense. They're definitely still good, but it don't compare to Outcast projects. So I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say I'm gonna move it because they were both really good projects, of course, and I love them both. And but I like them together more so than apart.
This record a massive double LP that features a solo album from Big Boy in Speakerbox and one from Andre in The Love Below, and despite the group splitting up for most of the record and creating their own distinct musical worlds, it absolutely worked and ended up ultimately becoming their most successful album, and rightfully so. From the brash and funky Speakerbox, which really allowed Big Boy to cater an experience to his buttery flow and smooth vocals in a way that we had never really seen, to The Love Below, which pushed Andre 3000 to infuse pop, soul, hip hop, and so much else into one of the most creative albums that I have ever heard in my life. By splitting up and letting their individual creative spirits run loose, Outkast was able to create an experience that to this day there has been absolutely nothing else like. So for Outkast finding new ways to elevate the album structure as a whole, Speakerbox The Love Below
That's back when Andre 3000 was on his Jimi Hendrix.
is in the top 10 of this list. And at number 9, we got Eminem's Marshall Mathers LP, and while I have talked
What the number 9? Bitch, no, no, not number 9, not number 9, not number 9.
about 5 other Eminem
Way hard. No, I won't say way hard, but this is top 5.
albums on this list and have had some pretty differing feelings on all of them. This is the album that, no matter what, stands proud and tall as his magnum opus. While the Slim Shady LP is more insane than this album, and the Eminem Show is more
And I agree on that. More insane, more mature. I would even say maybe the Eminem Show may be the better CD technically. Actually, if we, let's be real, the Eminem Show probably is the better CD. But this one, just the hype behind it was crazy. Get Rich or Die Trying did not win Album of the Year, Rap Album of the Year. I just realized I have not heard it yet. They tripping. The Chronic didn't win Rap Album of the Year. Wait, what albums? I need to hear what albums made won that year. I'm tripping. How does the Chronic, and not even the first Chronic, the Chronic 2001, or the 50 Cent Get Rich or Die Trying not win Album of the Year? Like, even if they was going up against each other, maybe they went up against in the Eminem Show. That's the only thing I can think of. They went up against the Eminem Show.
mature and refined. The middle act in this legendary album saga takes the best of both of these worlds, as Eminem delivered one of the most controversial and scrutinized but beloved and impactful performances from any rapper ever. There are just so many moments on this album that leave you in pure shock, and not just because the things Marshall Mathers is saying are controversial just to be controversial, but also because of the way M was able to critique and respond to the mass audiences who were trying to blame the world's problems on his music. Between the strength of Eminem's pen and subject matter, and also the atmosphere of this album that oftentimes feels so ominous and rage-filled, outside of the awful skit where we have to listen to somebody do something that I can't say on YouTube, all of these other factors come together to create a near perfect experience. So for all of these reasons, the Marshall Mathers LP is number 9 on this list. And coming in at number 8, we got an album that redefined how a lot of people look at hip-hop, with Kendrick Lamar's Mr.